My name is Fred Cook, and I drive school bus.
My name is Leanne Murchie, and I'm a school bus driver for TCAPS. It's been a very wonderful experience.
When I first hired in, one of the previous bus drivers told me that this particular job, driving school bus, is the best job on earth. So I immediately took to it, and I have to agree that this is one of the best jobs that anyone can do.
What prompted me in the very beginning, I have a college degree, and she said, "You're in the safest vehicle in the world on the road." So I thought, well, I'm gonna try. Because I would be on the same time schedule as my own children. And when they were off, I was off. When holidays, I was there. So it was the best of both worlds. TCAPS offers jobs elsewhere within the system.
Between routes, I used to, for 12, 13 years, I did lunch duty over at East Middle School, and now I paint.
They're real good about finding people the hours that they need during the course of the day to make the job great. We have Mesa Insurance. The whole district has it. It's awesome. It's the best health insurance. We offer a 401k. There's a sign-on bonus. It's a win-win situation.
The most important thing, I think, coming to work at TCAPS is you understand that you are part of a team. It's a part of a collective. It's not just bus drivers and then versus teachers. It's not that. We all are in this thing called education together.
If a person likes kids, generally likes kids, this is a perfect job.
So I'm talking to kids all day, and that experience is really heartwarming, and I continue to understand what it means to be a part of the community.
You are an educator. You have a chance to touch children's lives every day. And don't think that you don't. You are such an important part of the wheel of education.
I'll call the meeting to order. Having a quorum present, I call this meeting the Board of Education to order. The board would like to welcome the audience and thank you for attending. Viewers may watch Board of Education meetings and committee meetings live on TV 190 or online at tcaps.net/board. Recorded meetings may be viewed on demand at the same address. At this time, if we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please, Mrs. Hanley's 4th grade class at Central Grade in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, appointment of temporary secretary. I hereby appoint Megan Fees. It is Fees, isn't it? Yeah. I thought, thank you. Board recording secretary as temporary secretary until such time as the secretary of the Board of Education has been elected. We are at the review approval portion of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries. Okay, we are at the point of election of officers. Nominations are in order for the office of president. Are there any nominations?
I nominate. Oh, go ahead. I nominate Scott Newman Bale to serve as president of the Board of Education until the organizational meeting in January of 2025.
Second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay, there is one individual nominated for the office of president. Voting will occur for one at a time in order in which the names were nominated. The first name to receive 4 votes is elected to the office. Megan, please conduct a roll call vote for candidate Scott Newman Bale.
Trustee Raymond?
Yes.
Trustee Moonmore?
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger?
Yes.
Trustee Byrd?
Yes.
Trustee Newman Bale?
Yes.
You got, just in the nick of time, you've got one more.
Beth, we're voting on Scott as president. We only need 4. I mean.
You do, but she's here, so she has to.
Okay.
So yes, okay.
Motion carries.
Okay, I declare by majority, actually at this point, unanimous vote of the present members, Scott Newman Bale as president of the Board of Education until the organizational meeting in January of 2025. Thank you for the opportunity to serve as the acting chairperson. The newly elected president will now preside, and thank you.
So that is actually my question, is it unanimous or is it by majority because there's one, does that have to be unanimous because one member's nominated? I only need to know because I need to say the same.
I will say majority at this point. Majority of board members present.
I like that approach.
Yeah.
And that's correct, because it's not a consensus for
Okay, nominations are in order for the office of vice president. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Flanoy Humphreys to serve as vice president of the Board of Education until the organizational meeting in January of next year.
Second.
All right. Are there any other nominations? All right, there is one individual nominated for the office of vice president. Voting will occur, the first, no, never mind. Sorry. Megan, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Moonmore?
Yes.
Trustee Byrd?
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger?
Yes.
Trustee Newman Bale?
Yes.
Trustee Pack?
Yes.
Trustee Raymond?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Moving on to the next nominations are in order for the office of secretary. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Josie Ballinger to serve as secretary of the Board of Education until the organizational meeting in January of next year.
Second.
All right. Are there any other nominations for secretary? Okay, there is only one individual nominated, so Megan, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Moonmore?
Yes.
Trustee Byrd?
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger?
Yes.
Trustee Newman Bale?
Yes.
Trustee Pack?
Yes.
Trustee Raymond?
Yes.
All right. Next item is nominations are in order for the office of treasurer. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Andrew Raymond to serve as treasurer of the Board of Education until the organizational meeting in January of next year.
All right.
I second.
Second. Are there any other nominations? All right. There is one individual nominated for the office of treasurer. Megan, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Byrd?
Yes.
Trustee Pack?
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger?
Yes.
Trustee Moonmore?
Yes.
Trustee Newman Bale?
Yes.
Trustee Raymond?
Yes.
So I should have, as I declare by majority vote, Andrew Raymond as treasurer of the Board of Education until the organizational meeting in January of next year. Is it okay, or do I have to go back and declare the others?
That is fine. What I do need you to do is go back and declare the temporary secretary is no longer in place and that the secretary. So if you go under a majority vote under a secretary election,
Okay.
we do need to go through, I do need to state that one.
Okay. So I declare by a majority vote Josie Ballinger as secretary of the Board of Education until the organizational meeting in January of next year. Megan, thank you for serving as temporary secretary, and the newly elected secretary will now assume secretarial responsibilities.
You're good.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to the establishment of the board committees and representatives. First one is Board Executive Committee. That pretty much we had a rotation for all board members on certain committees, and that can just maintain the rotation that was on. So that covers Executive Committee. On Curriculum Committee, we have to break down I guess the first question is if anyone wants to change committees or at least express that desire.
Sorry, Mr. President, could you just clarify one thing? Is
Yeah.
it per our policy that executive is, as such, president, vice president, and one rotating member? Or is that just a
Not.
practice we've
It's a practice.
chosen?
That is a
Okay.
practice, so that is,
Okay.
that could be
Yeah,
changed as well.
okay. It's fine, I just wanted to ask.
Do we need to affirmatively say that we're going to continue that practice?
Yeah, I think we typically have done everything and approved everything in kind of one go in case there was any, but I think hopefully last year was a little bit different, so hopefully this year's a little easier. So I guess if we're okay with that, we will continue the board executive committee monthly meeting, president, vice president, and rotating board member. And then next is curriculum and finance. I would kind of treat those together. Is there any request to move? I know that most people, I think, want to stay on the committee they're on.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Good with that.
I think everyone wanted to stay.
Okay. Health and Wellbeing Committee. It's been a few times a year. We typically, I think last year we had 2 board members.
And again, it says that you have to have one, but if you wanted to have another, or, there's a different arrangement there, could also be done, so kind of whatever the board's wish is here.
So 2 people were on it last year. Do we want to open it up? We could either do 2 people. We could have a rotating board member, whichever the board feels.
How often does it
Only
meet?
meets maybe 3 times a year, I
Uh-huh.
believe.
3 or 4.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it doesn't take that long, really. It's not a real tight. It's an informative committee more than it is a tight, let's get things done.
Yeah, it's not really a committee of the board, it's a committee of
Right.
the district with lots of external partners. It's,
Right.
been a lot of work with the grant that we received from Rotary Charities that we've had with work on that, so, but again, it's the board's purview.
I'd
So I
like to
guess who
continue-
wants to continue?
I'd like to
be
continue
on
to
that
serve. I've had, yeah, it's been,
Continue, and then are you wanting to be?
If, Beth, are you thinking you want to be on it again?
I'd sort of like to, simply because it kind of leans towards healthcare.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
fine. I can establish how many people want to be, and then we can either say.
but we can rotate too. I mean, I've served on it for 2 years, so I'm happy to,
Yeah.
How about this? I know that, we always have conflicts. Josie, would you be okay being the first alternate?
Yeah, that's fine.
For that group?
Sure.
If we have that where one of you can't make it, that you notify Megan, and we'll make sure that Josie knows about it to be able to sit in that case.
and I have a question on this committee. Do you think it'd be possible to add like a report out on this
Yes.
committee? We've never really done
Yes.
that
Sure.
before, and I think there's a lot of really great work happening at on that committee, and on everything from mental health to physical
Again, that's all the board's
education.
purview
Okay.
on what you
Yeah.
want to do there.
So if you
agree.
could add that to the agenda,
Yes.
following those meetings, that'd be
Absolutely.
awesome. So, perfect. Okay.
Along those lines,
Megan,
I
you
know it's
in
not-
those meetings?
I am not in that.
You're
but I
aware
will
of the
get
meeting, so
schedule
you
on
can,
it.
okay.
along those lines too, the reporting out on the board superintendent, student advisory council too, I think we should be having
Yeah.
those report outs too.
It's not a bad idea.
That would be good too. Thanks.
Yeah. So speaking of alternates, do we need to name our curriculum and finance alternates as well?
Yeah, if we want to change those. Who's the alternate right now for curriculum? Holly is,
Yes.
but who's the finance alternate?
I think it's Flanoy.
No, Eric.
It's
Oh, it's
Erica,
Erica.
because she was just there.
That's me.
Okay. All right.
That's what I wasn't sure.
I filled in
so-
once this year.
I mean, the board members have been great, to be honest with you. It's not always available, so it's been a mix of everybody we've managed to cover, and
Yeah.
we appreciate that. But
Which is why I think I was like, if
I'm
anyone
not sure
wants
we
to
all
do
know
any
which
committee,
one for
just-
the alternate, because,
Yeah.
everybody has filled in on other ones and done a great job with that, but.
So if you're okay with that, we can leave that the same
Yeah.
then. Okay, so the alternates are staying, everything's staying the same on all of that. On the health and well-being, we're leaving it the same, but we're adding you as an official alternate as
That's
well. And you can negotiate how that works out there. And then the reinstatement committee is currently the board president, curriculum committee chair, and the board alternate as board vice president. I think that one is required, isn't it, by policy?
Yeah.
So that one isn't something we can change without changing policy. Board office hours, that's on a rotation. And the round table is also a rotation.
I'd like to bring up a question.
Yeah.
I mentioned it to you. whether we'd want to consider a policy committee again,
Yep. And I know that we,
especially because we're changing the policies.
yeah, and I've been back and forth. I mean, I was pushing for a policy committee, and then I backed down a little bit because we have policies coming. I still think there is going to be a place for a policy committee, at least in an ad hoc basis for specific items. I feel like we should get through the policy update as a separate, because I think that is going to come to the board as a large package, and a very large package.
And I think the next section is 4,000, which could have more board input. I would like to leave it as an ad hoc committee as needed.
But I do think it's going to be more needed as we get the policies done. Like, when they're done, there's going to be a lot of revisiting certain things.
And remember, the board can add something at any point, that the board wants to. So if later on you get through the policies and feel you need to, mid-year, you have the ability to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I did catch in the executive committee that we have the 100 and 200 series policies up for consideration at our February meeting. And then after that, the 400 series, maybe, or 5,000. Oh, okay. So we go from 100 and 200 to 5,000?
Well, we did the 4,000.
Okay.
That was what you got last month.
Gotcha.
You'll be getting the 1 and 2,000. We started with my section just because that was easier for demonstration. The 1 and 2,000s. We're going to skip over finance and operations for right now, just because this is their crazy busy season. And we're going to spend a couple of months talking about the 5,000 series with our internal committee before we present it to the board, because it's the largest and obviously most labor intensive for us to review and present to you.
Right. So what would make the most sense? Maybe wait till an executive committee meeting before you
I feel like we should get the policies enacted.
Right.
And then after that, we can see what the needs are. Because I think we're going to we're reviewing and approving all the policies in one
Right.
go. And I just don't really foresee that doing that many policies, we can
It's
add more
whether
to it.
you're ahead or whether you're behind. And if we're ahead, then you're reviewing them before you approve. If you're waiting till you're just about up on the approval, then you're the caboose.
I think one thing, they are going to get circulated to all board members soon. I think the 5,000s was
we
very
got it.
large, so we don't want
We
to
got it.
produce.
Right, you've
Yeah,
already
we
been
did it.
presented with the 4,000 section to review, and then you'll get the 1 and 2,000. You'll get the 5,000s right around the spring break period. So, and then you'll get the last section probably in May for board approval, hopefully in July. So we will have ample time for you to have reviewed every one of the brand new policies, asked to have questions, all those things before we do the final adoption.
But you're also doing that while you're preparing all the financial information, So I think it would be very easy to say, well, we'll just deal with that later.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with it necessarily later, but I feel like there's a bulk of them that we just need to go through, and then we will be constantly revisiting the policies. But I'm okay with whatever. I love any other feedback too, because it has been something that I've talked to you. I've gone back and forth on when it's going to be most effective to do it. I originally wanted a policy committee, and then hearing the process and looking at the process, I was like, yes, it's going to be too cumbersome to do it up front, so let's get the bulk of them done and then pick and choose which ones we want to do or as issues come up. But I'm okay with obviously whatever the board decides.
Would it be amenable to all, or at least a majority, if we just go through the process as currently envisioned, see how that goes, and then if we need to adjust for the future series, we can put it on the agenda? I mean, I'm willing to try it out as currently envisioned, but I'm curious if others are as well.
I sort of feel like nothing's stopping us from reading the whole packet when we get it.
Yeah.
So if something comes up, and, Beth, I know you're going to read through them. So I think everybody's going to, and I'm just giving you that vote of confidence on that. But I think that nothing's stopping us from doing that. So if something comes up, we can make that suggestion when we see it. Just take good notes.
I would agree. I like your suggestion. I think in order to have an in-depth conversation, if we decide to change, I think it should be an agenda item, would be my opinion.
And we also do have on the consent agenda there's some proposed, which I don't know if you needed to talk about that, but then there's the consent agenda, some proposed study session dates that could also be used,
Oh,
as
yeah.
one could be used as a policy.
That's a good
because that way it keeps the flow correct, and so that's one option as well. And there was 3 dates added as study sessions. That was just to kind of have the idea out there. If they can be changed, we could add to them, we could move them, whatever. So that's one option as well, because I'm not opposed to policy committee. I'm just not sure it's going to be most effective in this process.
Okay.
But again, happy. I have changed my mind
Yeah.
depending on arguments of other before. So.
Yeah.
So we can look at that at the study sessions too, and anything that it is in consent, but it's easy to cover in this area. But any subjects that we want to look at as well, just please let me know. I know that one of the most requested ones, and the only one that I think is pretty universally requested, is a high-level focus on academics. Is one, but I think we've got a little bit of difference on the others. So.
Excuse me, Mr. Newman-Vale, can I ask just a clarifying question? I'm not
Yeah.
sure if you already said it. Are the committees staying the same date and time? I just would like to.
Good point.
Typically, the first meetings always stay the same, and then the committee chairs would work with
Talk
the
about it at
staff
the
to
first
do.
meeting. Okay.
And technically, the chair is elected. I think we've done the chair is elected in the first meeting, and then
Set the time and.
So we'll have it on our agenda at the next
yeah.
meeting.
Now I guess I'm not going to speak for any committee. I'm assuming that you guys have
The
got
finance
your,
committee would like to, I would prefer for finance to be in the morning again, but
Okay, I'm
We can
moving
talk about
committee
it.
now. No, I'm just kidding.
we can talk about it at the next
So
one.
the next meeting's the same, and
Stay
then
at the same
on the
time.
agenda, we'll add
Yep.
Yeah.
determined time and, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Flournoy may change her committee request depending on.
And curriculum has changed already, just so, yeah, so, which I,
We'll revisit just to
Yes.
double see.
Yep.
perfect, yeah.
Okay. So,
All right.
Mr. President, just to
Yeah.
tie up everything with a bow with the policy committee, would you suggest that if any board member reviews all the policies, feels very strongly that something different should happen in the process before the next board meeting, maybe the best way is to suggest to you and the other members of exec, hey, could you all consider this at executive?
Yeah.
So that's not amending the board agenda at the board meeting.
Yeah,
We have a
or
little bit of
email
kind of a
John
heads
and
up.
myself, and then
Yeah.
we can have because there have been some changes and they've gone back to Troon, and I know there's been some.
Yeah. A little bit more advance notice would be helpful, I think.
Yeah, obviously the sooner the notice, the more we can do before the meeting, and then we can deal
Yeah.
with any issues at the meeting as need be as well.
Very
So,
good.
yep.
Thank you.
And then the idea on the study sessions is to have a more in-depth, but also not have voting. It's not meant to be a meeting where we move anything. It's more of just really in-depth that allows us to have a different structure that may not be as easy to view, so we can have workshops or whatever it may be. Yep. Any other questions on committees, schedules, or?
Yeah, do
sorry.
we want to talk about the dates for the study sessions then? Because I know there was kind of a straw proposal.
You
Want to do that now, or?
I think we get to
Yes,
the point
but-
where we have board meeting approval, that it's there.
So yeah, but then you would have to pull it from consent, which you would require because I didn't realize it was in consent. So you would have to ask when we
yeah.
get to consent. You would
Okay.
ask to pull that.
Okay.
Let's do it that
Okay.
way, just to keep it correct. And I'll write
Will
it
do,
down. But
thank
yep.
you.
So let's go on to the public comment. If everyone's good to move on, and the board has set aside this time for public comment, individuals addressing the board shall have one opportunity to speak and shall be limited to 3 minutes. Individuals should not make personal attacks unrelated to actions affecting the school system. We strongly encourage common courtesy and constructive feedback. Detailed rules and procedures, including a complaint process, are outlined in Board Policy 0167.3. I will be revising that going forward just to make sure that everyone is aware as well. Is to the point of public comment is to address the board, and we will be pushing people to make sure that the addressing is of the board, not of the rest of the public. So, with that, Megan, do we have public comment?
We do.
Go ahead.
Scott Richards.
Remember, this is on demand too, so if you don't hear anything or miss something, you can always go back and look it up. These books, Red, White, and Royal Blue, and Genderqueer, and All Boys Aren't Blue, they don't need to be in the public or TC Central or TC West libraries. It's pornography, and it's sad. I think it's leading to problems like sextortion, which is a true word. It's put out by the FBI. And you should look up this young man, Jordan DeMay. Jordan, D-E-M-A-Y. Look up his story. Maybe it might be linked to what's going on in the school systems. It's sad. You guys are losing students. You're having a hard time retaining teachers. And it might be because of the agenda. And State Trooper John Halfhill does a wonderful presentation on cybersecurity. Thank you for your time. Go Blue.
Liz Yarch. Hi, my name is Liz Yarch. I'm a proud TCAPS employee and TC CAPSA Vice President. I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank the board for all you're doing for our community, for our staff, for our students, for my 7th grader at TCAPS Montessori. We really appreciate all you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Wiesner, Traverse City. Again, this is the topic. Rainbow belongs to God. The LGBT stuff, books in the library, not a good thing. The rainbow's been stolen. It's being misused right now by the LGBT. It was a sign of his promise after the flood that he wouldn't flood it by water again. However, sorry, I've got it right here. And by the way, this handout I'll offer to anyone here, along with these DVDs. The DVD shows a picture of the Grand Canyon, and it looks at the age of the Earth, an old Earth or a global flood. What formed it? The LGBT, the modern version, the evolution version, which is false, would say it's been millions of years. The young Earth, basically real science, look at it, says it's young. It's thousands of years, formed by the flood, after the flood of Noah. And it's explained in this DVD very well. It's a $29 DVD. I can give them away because you're allowed to recopy them, and I do it for hardly anything. But look at this flyer online, tcfamily.org, shows the 10 Commandments of the LGBTQ based on man's word versus the 10 Commandments, God's word, based on that. And it's a 5-page handout. But going back to okay. This verse in the Bible, just before the flood, Genesis 6, verse 5. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. So God, he doesn't want to judge this stuff, but God is holy. He must judge it. But Noah found faith or favor in God's eyes. I wanted to make the point, too, that true adult entertainment or true adults, it's not something you have to go hide. It's not something you have to go to take it to Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays there. They set the example for the children. So they're not going to put books in libraries that are causing people problems that way. Okay, thank you very much for your consideration.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Sorry. change. Moving on to superintendent's report. I'll turn to Dr. Magna.
Okay, so for recognition this month, it is School Board Appreciation Month. So I want to read this. The key to a brighter future for Michigan's children is a strong public education system. Every day, students count on public schools to help prepare them for a successful future. Whether they understand it or not, they count on adults across the state, ensuring they have access to the resources to help them learn, keep their buildings safe, and have qualified teachers to guide them. It takes a pure, unwavering commitment to a community to make this all possible. Yet at the end of the day, the true superheroes contributing to the success of our students are just ordinary citizens with extraordinary dedication to public schools, including our school board members. These individuals approach their volunteer work like it's a full-time job sometimes, and for some, they value their work on the board as more important than their chosen profession. Their job is to establish a vision for the education program design and structure. To achieve that vision, ensure schools are accountable to the community and strongly advocate for continuous improvement in student learning. The job of a school board member is tough, long hours sometimes, and thanks are few and far between. Too often, we're quick to criticize school board members without really understanding the complex nature of their decisions. We have to remember to take time to thank them for their untiring efforts. So this month marks the observance of School Board Recognition Month. This is an opportunity to show our year-round appreciation for these public servant leaders and begin to better understand how local trustees work together to prepare today's students to be tomorrow's leaders. We encourage you to join with others throughout our community and state and nation to salute the individuals who provide grassroots governance of public schools. So tonight, I want to make sure to say thank you for all that you do. As a small token of our appreciation, on each of your desks is a name badge that one of the things we looked at, wanted to make sure that you all, oftentimes you're at either MASB events or at school board office hours or those, so this is a great way for you to be able to identify yourself as a school board member, so we hope that you'll be able to use that. Then also on your desk, we have a cool pen holder and a cell phone holder that actually are laser engraved by our students at our high school that use the laser engraver, and it actually has our logo and your name on it. And then the pen holder is neat. It has all of our elementary and middle school and high school buildings you to have. So again, small token. For those of you that don't know, our school board members are not paid. It is a volunteer position that they have to go up for election for. And so, and I will tell you, there are some school districts, even they do get some small stipend, but ours do not. They do this all really just for the benefit of the children in our community. So again, on behalf of all of our staff and our students, I want to say thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again to the Simatech students who made
thanks to
these.
the
It's
students.
just
That's
really
super cool.
special. Special
cool.
Super
keepsakes.
So a few more updates. Legislative update, not a lot. The governor has announced state of the state, end of the month. We're waiting soon for the January revenue consensus estimate. I'll tell you, initial feedback is actually a little bit positive of what we're hearing right now going into it. There's a decent surplus. We're hearing that they think is going to be from last year that was unspent. And then revenues are a touch higher right now, we're hearing, but we'll find out for sure when the Senate and House fiscal agencies jointly give that report at that consensus revenue estimate. And then the governor will present her boilerplate shortly after the state of the state in February. And then we're on a roll, but we're just not sure what's going to happen between then and April with a 54-54 tie in the House of Representatives. There will be 2 seats that will be filled by special election, but that won't happen until April. So we anticipate that some work will be done, but we could have a mad rush to not really find out stuff for our budget until the initial glance from the legislature until late April, if not May, and then hoping to have a budget before 4th of July. That's crazy fast and furious, which is a bit scary because, as you all know, we have to have a budget adopted by July 1. Mm-hmm. And so our best educated guess could be even more of a guess, going into this budget year, depending on what happens. So we'll keep our eye, as we always do, on all that, but do know it could be a little later this year than we've had, and we'll just kind of see where it ends. But on the revenue side, it's actually at the moment looking, halfway decent, so. Then district highlights, we had, one of the things I want to talk to you tonight about is just to kind of get a confirmation from you. So we have to name an athletic field at West High School. You might remember that a couple years ago, we named the Trojan Athletic Complex. We had a process where students submitted names and voted on, and just like last time, there's not a general consensus really. So we did it. We do have some numbers, and I'm giving a recommendation that I would like to go with. This really doesn't take a vote of the school board, but I just want to see if there's any, issues with my recommendation, and if so, at that point, I'd kind of take it back then and rethink. But right now, my recommendation is West Athletic Fields. There were different names of Titan Turf, Titan Territory, Titan Fields, West Domain, West Fields, Titan Yards, Olympus Fields, the Titan Pantheon, Titan Dojo, Titan's Playground, and West Athletic Palace. Those were all kind of...
Titan Athletic Palace?
Yeah. So that's where it kind of all rolled. We had, the Titan Turf Territory and West Athletic Fields were the top three, rated in between 30 and 13%. Kind of with the athletic in the middle with Trojan Athletic Complex, West Athletic Fields, three-letter acronym. It kind of that's what I kind of feel is the best that represents that. A lot of us are kind of calling the West Athletic Fields already, but that's where I'm heading for a recommendation and plan on moving. But just seeing if there's anybody that wants to contest that or has issues with that.
I just have a question. So at Central High School, it's the Trojan Athletic Complex, TAC, right? People call it TAC for short. So obviously we don't want to do a Titan Athletic Complex. So
Well,
that
and that would
TAC?
be, and so that would be TAC as well,
Right.
And then we looked
So-
at West, so WAC, so a lot of
Right.
people didn't want that.
Yeah.
So we kind of, the West Athletic Fields is kind of where that fell in that three-word acronym, kind of similar that, and a lot of times it's the West Side. I mean, you hear a lot of that, so.
So now it's the WAF? It'd be the
Or
WAF.
if you
I can
could,
hear
yeah.
the students already laughing, by the
Yes,
way.
yes, so, you might, we always laugh, like when we did this last time, there was a contest like in the UK for something, they named the place Bodie McBoatface. And so we didn't want that to happen either.
Yeah.
So, like a ship was named that or something, so we kind of put a broad, multiple list out there to go. But that's the one that I feel fits, and so that's what I'd like to go with unless there's any objection.
I agree. I've already heard it referred to that a lot.
Yeah.
So I think it makes a ton of sense, and especially comparing it to TAC or
Right.
WAC or,
Right.
I think it's, I think it's good.
WAF.
Trojan
Wave
Athletic
for- yeah.
Fields, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to plan a similar ribbon cutting ceremony, everything like we did over at TAC for those of you that might have been on the board or with that point that we'll have with the first games. We already kind of have a tentative date that we're working on. So that'll be our plan to actually open that fields and to go with that. Also, let you know that Lunch Buddies, TCAPS, is still in need of volunteer mentors for the Lunch Buddies mentorship program. Lunch Buddies happen at every elementary building in the district on a specific day of the week. Mentors commit to at least one season where they will eat for one 20-minute lunch and play for two 20-minute recesses. You can learn more at www.tcaps.net/lunchbuddies. And I know we have some board members that do it. I know Josie's at Central Grade. I know that Erica is at Blair. I think also Beth does it. No, you have
I'm a
not.
reader.
I know you've been volunteering at Blair, so. But, any thoughts or anything to add there?
I just a shout out to the program. I think if any community members are listening, it is a really, really, really great program. I think I maybe get more out of it than even the kids do, just because they're excited to see me. We have lunch together, they know me, and then we go outside and play some organized games or sports. And so it's great, keeps them busy, keeps them out of trouble, and being bored, getting in trouble, whatever. And they really, really like it. So if any community member is listening that has an extra hour a week, it is really fulfilling. So I'm sure Josie would agree.
Yeah, if you really want to make an impact on students, this is a great way. I think it's a big bang for the buck. Just before winter break, I went up to a girl who was kind of having a moment And I asked her what was wrong, and I talked to her about it, and she just gave me a big hug and said thank you. And, you know, it was like, it's one of those moments that really made you feel like you had an impact. Even more than we do maybe here at the table. Sometimes we can feel far removed. So I would encourage any family member, any community member, just an hour a week. It's a small amount of time, but a big impact. Just like Big Brothers Big Sisters, any of these ways to give back to the community are great.
And I would love to see, I've been trying to work with some of the athletic directors on the side a little bit, but trying to get some TCAP students, maybe at our high school level, maybe the varsity clubs or something, to give back to some of the schools too. Would be kind of a cool way to get students volunteering for other students. That we used to do it in elementary school, where the fifth graders would come down and read with the kindergartners, and man, those kindergartners' eyes look, you know, they look up to those fifth graders. So I think it could be the same impact of having high schoolers come into those schools. So just a little side thought.
Okay, thank you. Also, Fight the Freeze update. So on Friday night, we had our first of the West Central basketball, girls and boys, at West High School, and we had Fight the Freeze. This is a great program where this is the second year of it. Want to thank our sponsors. We had Blarney Stone Broadcasting, as well as we had Cherry Capital Airport that gave, I think, a $500 flight drawing giveaway, and Nicolay Bank, who paid the admission for everybody that came to the game, in exchange for a donation to the School Support Network. So happy to announce that we ended up raising $1,988.25 in cash, as well as an additional 60 in gift cards and lots of other different blankets and different things in need. So thank our community, a great environment. You know, really, really well. The Central girls pulled it out in good game, and then the West boys. So we'll see them again later on in the year here at Central High, do that all over again. But again, this was specific for Fight the Freeze, and just appreciate all our community support with that. Also, continuing with our Cyber Safety Matters event, another reminder, there are 2 more opportunities to participate in the Cyber Safety Matters event series. They are scheduled January 16th, which is Keeping Teens Safe Online, from 6:30 to 7:30 at Traverse City Central High School. And then again, February 21st is the Cyber Safety Awareness Screening and Panel Discussion at Lars Hochstedt Auditorium, 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. The doors open at 5, the 5:30 p.m. screening of the video, and 30 to 45-minute panel discussion to follow. So we'll continue to get that out on social media and all of our networks, and would love to have people come and participate in that important informational series. Also, West Senior High Theater Department is presenting Charlie and the Chocolate Factory on Friday, January 12th, Saturday, January 13th at 7 p.m. Tickets are only $12 for adults, $8 for students. Our kids do a great job with all of our theater events. Every time I go, I'm just in awe of the work our kids do. So would appreciate any support, and again, for the money, you just can't get a better program from the kids in our region. So would strongly suggest people take a look at that. Open interviews, looking to kickstart a new career in 2024. If so, TCAPS is hiring multiple positions, many with no experience needed and training provided. You can visit www.tcaps.net/jobs to learn more, or join us at an upcoming open interview session here at our Tompkins Board Administration Building. Again, that's at 412 Webster Street in Traverse City, across from the Government Building. And that's Wednesday, January 10th from 8 to 10 a.m. and Wednesday, January 24th, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. And for some reason you can't make one of those events, please just call or email, stop by, and we'll get something set up to talk to somebody. And again, great opportunity to help great kids. So if you have any interest, please let us know. Also, I want to let the board community know, as we are beginning to make our transition from this building to Glenn Loomis, one of the things with new technologies that have come up, it would be quite a bit of a cost transition, and now older equipment for us to continue on TV 190. So one of the things in the near future, it may happen as soon as February, we will be consistently just going to the web-based version of the live stream event that will be a part of YouTube video that's recorded in there. But we are anticipating as soon as February that the TV 190 broadcast will end, and it will be exclusively on our website, and you'll be able to stream it live, and then it will also be recorded for viewing on demand whenever needed. So just want to get that out there for people to know that.
What are the costs associated with TV 190, and do we have numbers on viewership?
We haven't at all. The biggest thing is with our transition to the boardroom, the rewiring and all that element for it. You know, it's something in the future if we saw we could look at, you know, but at least in our short transition here, we've decided to, you know, go with the live feed, and we'll get feedback and those kind of things. It's always something we can do, but we just, from what we're seeing, we don't think we get a ton. A lot of people, you know, will go on the internet and stream it from there, their phone, all those, as technologies have kind of advanced from that standpoint. But again, nothing's final as that element that we couldn't do that, but we would have to invest in the upgraded equipment really to do it. At this point, we want to try it without it to see if that satisfies our community. And then calendar coming up, Dr. Martin Luther King Day. We will have no students, no school for students. It will be a teacher work day. One note, also January 29th at 3:30 p.m. we will have our health center ribbon cutting at West Middle School. So we've had the chance to get over and see that awesome facility, what it's turned into. So would love to have you. And then that will be opening up. And again, that's something that's been presented to the board. All agreements that everybody wants to see any of that can be looked at online. And we're excited to be able to do that. Just on one note on calendar, I had updated the board in my update. We are working on next year's calendar right now, so we'll continue to look at different things and feedback as we do. Is just a kind of reminder, I've gotten a few questions on this lately from the community. We are required by law to have 180 school days. You know, there is a waiver to start before Labor Day. We've gotten a lot of feedback from parents in the past and our community business supporting that they really do enjoy their Northern Michigan summers. And so, you know, as you have that, it does somewhat push you maybe later into June from that standpoint. So we are looking to, you know, maximize our days in there. So we are going to continue to look at some options there. And so I'll keep the board informed as we work with the TCEA as a negotiation on that calendar. So we are hoping to get that out a little bit earlier this year than we have in the past, so people can plan vacations and those kind of things. So just want to let you know we're working on that, and we'll have you updated on that as soon as we get real close to it. So then I have one last thing that I just, on my end, that I want to pass it off. Actually, I will pass it off to Connie for tenure, but then I have one more thing after that I want to discuss. So.
Sure, super quick. You know that sometimes we have staff members who don't start on our normal cycle and who complete the requirements for the probationary period throughout the course of the school year. And I'm happy to share with you that we have 2 staff members who have completed their probationary period and who are now acknowledged by the state of Michigan as having acquired tenure. And those 2 staff members are Amanda Wegener and Dustin Worm. So we congratulate them on their accomplishment.
Okay. All right, so one of the things that we're getting to the point of is we've had a lot of work of study sessions with pre-bond planning. And it is now 2024, and we've had the discussion at this point about a possible bond in 2024. So at this point, I think from a pre-bond planning standpoint, we have exhausted what we feel is in that package. So I just want to confirm the board we're at that juncture. If so, it would be my intent to bring a recommendation to the board in February with ballot language and those things for the board to consider. But I just want to make sure what we've discussed and what we've had in the package that we've discussed, if you feel we're at that point, you feel comfortable with that. Is there any element, you know, that's missing at this point? Obviously, we would, you know, if the board does choose, you know, to go down that path, we will have a lot of communication venues. We will have presentations on, you know, what this encompasses. Obviously, there's lots of things. There's, you know, what we would highlight, especially the major things from that standpoint. But I just kind of want to confirm that's where we're at this point. And is the board ready for me to bring something in February on a consideration?
I think so. I think the only question I've had from public and board members that we've addressed but not clearly or at least fully addressed was multi-purpose facility. So I guess just so I can respond to people effectively, the multipurpose facility isn't in the bond, but that's because we don't need bond funds to do that. We do need the bond to pass, but we are piecing that together with donors, hopefully appropriations, grants, and if we need to, we can go to cost savings elsewhere. So I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page, because there's a few emails that I want to respond to that just says it's not in the bond, but we are still we're working on it, but we think we have it paid for outside of the bond. So that was that was my only clarification that I needed.
I guess I have, before Dr. Van Wagner answers that, I just wanted to kind of check that nothing has changed, right, since we last met at our pre-bond meeting in October, I think it was?
I mean, we will outline that, obviously,
Yeah.
from that, but we've had no other further discussion. I mean, everything's been public from that standpoint. The last probably real discussion we had was on auditoriums, and you were presented with really the issues that involved in trying to do that. And so really, it's a lot of nuts and bolts of roofs and boilers, a lot of things to keep our kids safe, security, really kind of that idea, a lot of safe, warm, and dry, and those kind of elements are really the meat and potatoes of this bond that and central grade, but again,
Other than that.
but
That's safe, warm,
100
and
years
dry,
old
too.
of safety, and we don't have a vestibule on central grade, we don't have some of those things, and so I think there's a lot of focus in there on our older buildings, obviously, you have, and I always remind people even of buildings that, by time we get to touching this, if the board goes to a bond, Central High or West High School will be probably 30 years old by that point. We're already at 26 years old on that building now, and when you start thinking about a house when it hits 30 years, there's maintenance, there's things to do, to replace. And so that's really what I believe the board has outlined in that package that you've had in your pre-bond planning. And I just want to make sure that that's what you're ready for me to bring, with our team, with Christine here at our February board meeting with bond language, those elements for you to review and to consider.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, we've done a lot of work with surveying the community and staff and kids, everyone, to figure out what do we want to see. And so, now it's kind of putting it all together and going back to the community and saying, this is what we need support on now through a bond. So I think we've done all the work and reviewed all our priorities of, really tried to put our most important priorities, all the way down to the nice haves, so to speak. And I think we've done a really good job with that all together. So I definitely think we're ready. So, and thank you, Scott, for mentioning the multi-purpose
Facility. Yep.
facility, because I've gotten questions, and so I think it's good to be able to say that it's not necessarily one of our, bond focuses, but that we can get it done in other ways, and like you said, donors, all those things.
So just to make sure you're okay, like for discussions with me for donations and those kind of things, but again, to make clear that it's not in the package that we'll be bringing in February. It's really that nuts and bolts of the basics that our survey has identified is what we'll bring to you in February.
Yes. This would be on the ballot in August.
That's your determination still. I'll have a recommendation, and that's what I remind you that we will also have a operating renewal that has to be considered. We have to, a part of our foundation grant, that there's a decision that has to come as well. So I'll bring you my recommendation with that in February, and you'll be able to take that under consideration.
I also want to thank the staff. Christine, superintendent, walking around with his flashcards, his giant flashcards, I say. You guys have made these decisions very easy. So with all the work that you've done, so I just want to recognize and uplift that.
Yeah, appreciate it for sure.
Okay, that is all I have for this evening.
All right.
One other.
Oh.
With
The licensed childcare.
yes, go ahead. Let me
Sorry.
kick that up. Sorry, I forgot.
Sorry.
Christine there.
Just a quick update. So last year, we were in a position where we needed to increase our extended day childcare rates. And we had said at that meeting last year that this year, we would be tackling the Summer Explorers Club and preschool tuition and toddler tuition. So just for informational purposes, we have not raised our rates since the 2019-20 school year. And as you know, as we've tried to attract staff, we've been increasing staff wages. Fortunately, the last 2 years, we've gotten some state subsidies to help offset the cost, so we didn't have to raise rates for parents, but we're at a point now where for the 24-25, we do need to increase our rates. So I can certainly share what that looks like. I also anticipate a little bit of an increase in 25-26 if there's no state subsidy. We're trying to kind of split the increase we need into 2 fiscal years.
So that's consistent with what you informed us a couple of months ago, unless you have a bigger change
We've
than
made the
anticipated?
decision to have to do it.
Yeah.
It does not require a board action, but with just informational purposes, we want to make sure to be transparent to let you know.
It was like a 20% increase, if I remember correctly?
Yes.
Something like that? Okay. Yep.
We found enough staff.
We are still struggling, especially for scheduled staff absences, long-term staff absences. We're really struggling.
And we're not the only ones. We know some other organizations in the committee have had to close some classroom, one that's housed in one of our buildings. So it's a struggle across our entire community.
Across the country.
Mhm. Thank you. All right, moving on to board committee report outs. Curriculum committee reporting out by Trustee Peck.
The curriculum committee met on January 2nd at 8:30 in the morning, new time. And there were no additions on the district course catalog, which was good. There are 5 field trips which are currently on the consent calendar. And of those 5, 2 of them will be to Italy, out of the country, and 2 will be for the middle school going to Washington, D.C., and robotics is planning on going to Texas. There probably will be a second robotics field trip that will be come to the board for approval shortly. Then we spent some time on the process of selecting new curriculum. And that was interesting. It's quite a well-planned sequence where you try to find what curricula are available. You identify teachers that should be part of that approval process. You do it in a consistent way. You consider whether or not there's a whole lot of other new things that are coming in, because you don't want to, particularly for the K through 8 grade teachers, bring in too much new curriculum, because they're responsible for teaching such a variety of things in the younger grades. There was some discussion, a fair amount of discussion, of how things have changed with textbooks since COVID, and that a lot of the textbook companies have gone much more to online, and for just a little upcharge you can buy the hard copy. But to complicate it further, they have a lot of workbooks that are part of the package, and the workbooks are usually for individual students, and so you can't recycle those. So the increase in cost, and if I've got this wrong, Dr. Van Wagner, please just step in and tell me that it doesn't quite go that way. So you always have to be aware of the consumables, and the cost of consumables goes into the future, and to some degree, you don't know what offsets those consumables necessarily. So it was a very interesting discussion. I appreciated it. And I'm hoping to find out more on the edreports.org, which is where a lot of the recommended texts and curriculum come from. I'd sort of like to know if it's basically just certain companies or if it's a little bit more diverse. So curiosity may kill the cat. Then the second thing we talked about was the rating for schools. And schools are graded in the state of Michigan on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parameters. And it appears to be a weighted average that they select. Exactly how they do it, I don't know. But they talk about 34% is on student growth, 29% is proficiency, student proficiency. They have kind of a broad category on school quality, and that's 14%. And that's everything from whether you have access to libraries, whether you have athletics, arts. There's some attention to absenteeism in that. So it really is a mix of things in that 14%. Graduation rate is 10% of determining what your score is. There's also an English learner progress at 10%, which probably doesn't figure as heavily here for us.
But growing.
Yes. And English learner participation at 1%, and I'm not exactly clear on that one. Then there's general participation, that's 2%. So it really is quite a mix. It'd be very interesting to find out who looks at these things and watch them put it together. Because some of it seems like you're just trying to get 100%. How you determine that graduation rate is 10% and student proficiency is 29 and student growth is 34. I don't know. But that is what we talked about, and which I appreciated. And then our next, forgive me, I'm coming off a cold and I feel like my head is nothing but a sponge. But our next curriculum meeting is at the end of the month on the 29th at 8:30 in the morning. Thank you.
Next report out. Any questions? I'm going to be a little expeditious in the next several items because I know that a lot of people may have somewhere to be. Not that I would ever rush any meeting agenda items. But next up, Board Finance and Operations Committee, reporting up by Trustee Bird.
We had our meeting on January 3rd at 4:30 p.m. It was myself, Erica Moore as alternate, the relevant administration, and Dr. Van Wagner. Excuse me, Wagner. And we didn't have any public comment. We had some procedural items where we looked at the prior committee meeting minutes. No changes were recommended. We had approval on our November 1st minutes to remain as posted. We talked about the board organizational meeting for today, finance related, and Christine Hill-Thomas talked to us a little bit about the designation of depositories, investment of funds, signatures required for school district accounts, and offered a list of what those things were. No surprises there. We also looked at the resolution to authorize summer property tax collection for 2025, and again, no surprises there. The finance-related items were updated and presented each year, and they're always presented here as well. We also recommended board approval of the finance-related organizational meeting items as presented and placed them on the consent calendar for today. We had Evan Obranovic, is that how we say it? Okay. Looking at our bid services and our purchases for technology. He gave us a presentation on the classroom audio and visual research and development pilot, where they're having a teacher-led group doing some research and making recommendations about equipping 7 classrooms across the district with different audio and video configurations to make their jobs easier. And the goal is to evaluate each set of components to determine which setup best meets the needs of the teachers and students, and to use this across the district. So hopefully that'll make things easier to maneuver in the future, cut some costs, and trying to fix all of these things and make it easier for teachers to do their jobs and kids to learn. There was a recommendation to purchase equipment from Bloom of Minnesota and Digital Age Technologies for a total amount not to exceed $55,267, including a 10% contingency funded from the capital bond funds and placed on today's consent calendar. Speaking of audiovisual, we talked about the Glenn Loomis upgrades. And let me know if you can't hear me. I know my voice is kind of, I've been talked out today. We talked about additional technology equipment and infrastructure that's required for Glenn Loomis before the upcoming relocation of the administrative staff and board. So that included discussions about cables and boardroom updates, secure entrances, et cetera, et cetera. The recommendation was made to make purchases from vendors as presented in the memo to upgrade technology equipment for a total amount not to exceed $52,500, including a 10% contingency, which is funded from the capital bond funds and general fund. And that was also placed on the consent calendar.
Just to add on to that,
yeah.
it's also for the upgrades for, hopefully, if the bond passes and central grade has to be relocated. I think that was important to know, because it's not just for the admin, it's to also support kids being in that building, so.
And we did talk a little bit about that timeline as well, the potential moves and how all of that works. So that was a good thing to share again. And nothing different, again, same stuff that Christine and crew have been presenting this whole time. Some of the informational items we went through, capital projects, and Christine Hill, Thomas Hill, also helped present that. We talked about the status of the construction projects around the district, the bus wash, the different innovation centers and manufacturing centers at Central and West High Schools. We did an overview on the upcoming plans for bid package 2, and a timeline was reviewed with the committee. There was a recommendation of an award for contracts for those centers, bid package 2, to the low responsive and responsible bidders as presented in the table, recommended contractor with alternates. And that included a 10% contingency for a total construction award for bid package 2 in the amount of $8,892,810,000 million, all of that. So, sorry, $8,800,092,810. So that was also put on the agenda for the board meetings under discussion. And then we also did talk a little bit about the Sabin renovations, looked at the blueprints for that, the relocation of the TCAPS print shop from the basement to there, the data center. We talked a little bit about abatement in the building as well as rental spaces there and how that space could be best used. And further, the full presentation about construction updates is available on tcaps.net/about departments, capital projects, and planning. And finally, under the finance update, we looked at the 23-24 budget, again with Christine Thomas Hill, and no surprises there. It's the budget we've been talking about all year, and it looks like we're on track with what they had mentioned even at the beginning of the year. So we had no other items to discuss. We adjourned at 5:09, and the next meeting is Wednesday, January 30th, 2024 at 4:30 p.m. And it looks like that would be you, Andrew, myself, and Josie Ballinger.
All right, thank you. Any questions on those items?
Thank you to Trustee Bird for filling in, and apologies for my late absence.
We're all human, Andrew. No
Did
problem.
a nice job chairing. I watched.
Thank you.
Moving on to Board Executive Committee, I will skip any items that have already been covered in any other report. Professional Development, a League of Innovative Schools. There's a conference coming up in March 2024 that, as per Dr. Van Wagner's contract, he would like to attend. So that is on consent. There is 27 staff members in the early notification for retirement, including 14 teachers. That is up from last couple of years, but still down, I think, below from where it was prior to COVID, and probably where it will go. It will probably continue to trend a little higher. We did review the board policy updates. The 1 and 2000 series have begun, and the board will receive these for review this month. There's a new employee recognition program with the Compass Awards that will be rolling out shortly as well. And then as far as communications, we are starting enrollment for kindergarten on February 6th. And there is junior kindergarten information nights being held on February 12th and 14th in the elementary buildings. And there's an online option on February 14th as well. And we will have a ribbon cutting on January 29th at 3:30 for the health center located at West Middle School. So January 29th at 3:30. And the meeting was adjourned at 9:26. The only other note is myself and Flinoy have not formed a power couple. And if we can change the name, Scott Humphreys on the executive committee.
That's pretty funny.
We could have a triple-barreled name.
Yeah. So other than that, is there any questions on the executive committee? The next meeting is Thursday, February 1st at 2024 in 9 a.m. in this room. I will continue to go on board office hours on reporting out. It was men's night in Traverse City on my evening, so there was a lot of traffic. And so I created my own guests to talk to for a little while, but then I did have a conversation with the TCEA union president, as well as some other community members just dropped in to literally say hi. There wasn't a ton of update other than said it was nice having a conversation, but it was a different atmosphere than normal for office hours, for sure. So the next board office hours, assuming that we approve everything as presented coming up in the next items, is January 25th in Horizon Books at 6 p.m. and Trustee Ballinger is in attendance. So coming up soon.
Yep.
Any other questions on any of that? Okay. Moving on to consent. I think there was a proposed change.
Yes, I would like to remove item number C, little Roman numerals II, and place that under items for discussion, please. That item is designation of day, time, and place to hold 2024 board meetings.
Okay, so there's a motion to move that item out. Let's vote on that. That would be a amendment to the agenda. If so, then we will move that item to 9B. 11D.
11.
Was that a motion?
I did.
So I'll second that.
All right, second. Megan, please conduct a roll call vote.
Yes. Trustee Ballinger?
Yes.
Trustee Raymond?
Yes.
Trustee Byrd?
Yes.
Trustee Moonmore?
Yes.
Trustee Newman-Vale?
Yes.
Trustee Pack?
Yes.
All
A
right.
reminder that it does take a supermajority, which you have, Matt.
Yep. So I think we needed 5, so we're good on that. So do we have approval to approve the consent calendar as amended?
I will move that the Board of Education approve the consent calendar as amended and without discussion.
Second.
All right, I'll give it to Erica there. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to the first discussion item, school safety update. Deferred to Dr. Von Wagner.
Okay, so want to let you know one thing we've been working on, and so I know you've gotten some different questions and things about our TCAPS Montessori building in Frankie Road. So thanks to President Newman-Vale, I've had the chance to talk and have some discussions with some high-level real estate legal team at Meyer. I think that's been a really positive conversation, no outcome really to it yet. But I think that they're open to some conversation and more thought on it. I think that there's got to be a lot of variables in play here that are going to take a bit to fit in. I think that they do, I can tell just by the conversation, they do still have quite a few worries about liability, about people parking in their property, crossing a road, if somebody got hit. They're kind of, that element. And so, we had a process for a school zone to be looked at, but that was denied from that standpoint. But I think that they're willing to look at that if Meyer was willing to do that. So it's a little bit like somebody has to make a first move, and, and there's a cost here. One of the issues with that side of the road is that if you looked at it, it has quite a bit of a drop-off quick. They've talked about already some of the drainage issues and things they have on that property, Meyer does. So if you look at all that, you're probably looking at some ADA accessibility things of ramp that would have to be poured in that. Initial just quick blush looks from some conversation has been almost $200,000 on the Meyer property to really do that right. So, you know, one of the discussions I'm having right now, also with the road commission, I think there's some openness to fixing the road maybe. I've been in touch quite a bit with Ashley Walter, who's a county commissioner. So we're actually gonna meet Friday at Montessori. Ginger and myself and her talk a little bit about what that looks like, and, you know, for all of the idea of what it could, look at a Safe Route to Schools grant. I've had the chance to talk with Chuck Korn, Garfield Township Supervisor. I think they're open to signing on as a entity that is within the township. So lots of work happening with it. It's gonna take a while, I think, to put lots of pieces together, but we're gonna continue to look at that. You know, and just kind of wanted to give the board an update on where that is. That's really a big piece of school safety I've worked on. I have asked, Patrick will have a little bit more things to mail out for next month as well, of an update of a lot of things he's been working on. But that's one that's really kind of fresh off the last few days of trying to put together. So I wanted to make sure to, you know, especially our TCAPS families and others know we're working on that. We have some other, you know, things that we have done. We put light posts that are now up for people to be able to park in the West Middle School near the track and take the Buffalo Trail down. So we're looking at lots of different ways. Just want to make sure nobody thinks that we're just letting it be. So just, again, for the board as well as our community to know that we're actively working.
Who would have thought a school crossing would be so complicated? But we appreciate your efforts.
I had maybe just a comment not related to that, but related to traffic. And I apologize, I'm going to spring this on you, but I'm not expecting you to have anything this evening. But Milliken and Eastern, with the detour that's going to happen this spring, and then obviously not in summer when they're not there, but next fall, like, I think that's going to be maybe another issue that we...
And we're having quite a bit of conversations. I have an initiated conversation with the college about the gates that go, a possibility to be able to relieve some traffic, our buses and such, off to the road that goes along there. So I've had a personal conversation with Nick Nestle, the president of NMC. I know that Tyson Bircher, director of transportation and facilities, we're talking to his counterpart there. We've kind of put them, Nick and I have said, let's get our two people working on this to see if there's some options there temporarily for us to have some access to be able to relieve that so the traffic wouldn't have to be in that bottleneck that we know is going to happen. So we are actively working on that, and we'll continue to look at some of those opportunities. So not too bad.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I was just going to say one more thing about Frankie Road. I think some of you might have heard me talk about this before, but further down the road south, heading towards Panera, the West Middle School bus drivers have to enter that back entrance. And the pavement is so bad. It has been chopped up for years. I don't know how those bus drivers haven't lost teeth, seriously, because I almost do driving down that road. So, you know, that's another thing that as long as Grand Traverse Road Commission's going to address that road in any way, I think if any of us have any, you know, sway writing emails or calling the road commission just to pave that road, I think it's going to
And I think they're open to it based on the feedback that I've gotten from, you know, Commissioner Walters and as well. You know, another piece that we're interested in is talking about some signage and some crosswalk maybe at Silver Lake Road in Frankie right there. We do know that we have some kids that maybe come from the, you know, the city neighborhood where Glen Loomis is at now, that may bike and stuff like that, and there is no cross there. You know, so that is something we did bring up, and we're going to continue to try and follow up on as well there for maybe an opportunity for some changes and a little bit there. And I think in our walk and all that on Friday with Ashley, we'll have some of those conversations as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Next discussion item is the Board of Education Standards of Practice. You have a draft copy. I think it's the same as previous years and on the wall right now, but if there's any questions.
Great standards.
Yep, and thanks everyone for a great year that we haven't even had to really get them out. So I appreciate everyone. Okay. If you can circulate that whenever there's next meeting is.
Yes.
Yep, perfect. the next discussion item, Central High School and West Senior High Innovation and Manufacturing Centers, deferring to Dr. Wagner.
Okay, and I'm going to defer it right to Christine Thomas to have a discussion on this item.
Thanks. So we did, at a high level, review this at Board Finance and Operations. We have about 13 trade categories that we're approving today. There has unfortunately been one change since we met at Finance. Our contractor for glass and metal has pulled out because they realized they missed some scope, and so we went to the next lowest responsible bid. And so that change has been made, and that's on your table. We recommend keeping the total dollar amount the same and lowering the contingency. I think it's about 9% now, but that way the total dollar that we've already put in the overall budget is the same.
Okay. I know it's been through finance without that change, but if there's any discussion or a motion to approve.
And I just want to give one comment. I think it's important to recognize that this is above originally our $10 million projection, but, you know, we have put some other things off to make sure that we are honoring the full scope of what the innovation and manufacturing centers have been meant to be, or have meant to be. And so with this, that it is an increased cost, but we are honoring that design and that work to make sure that our kids and what was an important piece of the community of the 2018 bond is fully realized and complete.
Yes, and sorry about that. I know that we had originally had the 10 million and that we had to increase it, and we have figured out a way to do it. And we appreciate the effort of moving money around in the end of a bond process that we are currently in. So I know it's been difficult to get it done.
And just for reference, this isn't the last thing that'll come through, so the total just for construction is 9.7 million, but we have about 1.5 still that will come forward to the board at a later date for an estimate total of 12.1 million.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, I noticed that, is there something else besides the 1.5 million? Because 9.7 plus 1.5 does.
Yes, that's the behind the scene costs for architect, some support services, construction manager, and that's already been approved.
Okay.
Yep, but still on track to be completed in right now, December 20th.
Approximately December of
Yeah.
2024.
They've got blankets, warming the ground up, everything, trying to keep it from freezing to get some footing.
Well, they had a good run until tomorrow. So.
Andrew, you got an item?
Yeah, you're requesting with contingency 8,977,228.
8.892,810.
Including a 9%.
It's the same as what's already in the recommended motion. I just decreased the contingency a little bit to cover for the addition of the new award.
So I'm not seeing that on the schedule. The
I
recommended.
think the total here, Christine, should have been 8,892, 810. The total.
Yeah, so I unfortunately.
gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
I didn't have access to edit that document, so I just made a note.
My mental calculator's not working. So.
And then your contingency drops to 9%.
Yes.
Okay.
But if whoever's making the
It's
motion,
accurate on the
So it-
memo.
Okay.
Got it.
but the motion should have it should say including
9%.
For the record, this happened late.
Yeah.
To the, late, you know, with doing this, so.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure our motion was good.
Yep. Yep. That's why I reduced the contingency, so there's no confusion on that.
So I'll go ahead and make the motion. I move that the Board of Education award the contracts for the Innovation and Manufacturing Center bid package 2 to the lowest responsive and responsible bidders as presented in the table, recommended contractor with alternates, and include a 9% contingency for total construction award for bid package 2 in the amount of $8,892,810.
Second.
All right. Megan, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Moonmore?
Yes.
Trustee Raymond?
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger?
Yes.
Trustee Byrd?
Yes.
Trustee Newman Vale?
Yes.
Trustee Pack?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Moving on to the next discussion item, which is the new item D, schedule. I think in front of everyone, or presented to everyone, was a schedule for the year for all meetings. I think there's one question specifically on the study sessions.
Yeah. Right. I just was curious if we all wanted to talk about the study sessions, because this is obviously our first time doing this. And I thought the idea was to have quarterly, study sessions. Right now, the tentative dates the proposed dates are April 22nd, July 22nd, and October 28th. So that would be three. They're also on Monday nights, 2 weeks apart from board meetings, which is fine. I just didn't know if we wanted to open up the discussion as to whether we might want to have one earlier, start them earlier in the year so we could have a series of 4, like have the first one in February or March. And then, do we want to stick with Monday nights or do we want to entertain the idea of a weekend? I'm good with either one. I just wanted to open it up for discussion.
Not entertain the idea of a weekend in July. That's
Okay.
just me.
Yeah, no weekend.
I know the summer would be tricky,
How
for
were
sure.
how were these 3 dates picked? Do we know?
Random,
Kind of random.
based on internal schedules and, yeah.
There wasn't a ton of as many dates as you would think when you start eliminating dates. So
Okay.
I just asked Megan to find 3 to 4 dates to put on the calendar that would likely work. I didn't really have too much input on because there's so much going on. My only concern, which I did think about, was I wouldn't be opposed to deciding the first subject, but we'd need to give staff plenty of time to
Right.
prepare,
For sure.
which is fairly tight in that time frame, especially if we want to have a detailed, well thought out presentation. I didn't think about that earlier, so
And it's
that's my
something
only
moving
thing.
forward, I think we could add that, knowing we would have them moving forward future, but, and again, this is totally your guys' decision.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
so-
also open to try and get another one in, but we're just trying to get something on the going.
So would late March or late February or early March or mid-March before spring break be feasible for the district to hold the first one?
Could. It just, again, it kind of depends on, what it is that we want. I'd have to go back to staff and kind of see from that standpoint, because I think, in our discussion on it that the board had with me is, maybe an elementary, middle school, and a high school focus, one of 3. I just have to see, specifically, we'd have to talk about what that is and what groups would be available. The little bit the hard part with that time is, we don't have elementary is not even out of school yet at 4 o'clock, so.
If we stick with the Monday night at 6 p.m. Yeah.
4 p.m.
Oh, these are, excuse me, the study, I see, yeah. Right, so maybe we should, there are multiple pieces, what day of the week, what time, and the dates themselves, and then the topics, there's a lot. We don't have to have closure on everything today necessarily, but I just wanted to open it up.
And totally your guys' call. There's a few options here. There's one is, you could strike them for now and then take some time to try and make it work on dates. I don't know if we'll ever get one that works for everybody. And it doesn't have to happen today. They can be added. It would take a motion to do so and change our board calendar, but that is feasible if you're not prepared for that tonight. But at some point, we got to get them on there.
In my opinion, I think they're here for me personally. The further out I get them on my calendar, the more likely I am to be able to do them versus like a moving target. I don't really want to debate what's going to work for 7 people at a board meeting,
Right.
to be honest.
I think I'm good with the dates as presented. I thought they were, I guess your recommendation is did you want 4?
I would,
I think maybe we're good with the 3, and if we do one, if we needed a 4th, maybe we add one late. I don't know.
I think, the farther into the year, it gets harder to add a 4th
Well, and
one,
maybe
so.
we'll know after we do one, if we don't, if we do the 1 and we're like, ooh, there's a lot here, we need a 4th, that maybe at that time in April, we can add the 4th one.
Well, we could also revisit in
So,
February.
But we don't,
to change the other 2 if we need
but
to as well.
I'm with Trustee Moonmore. I think if they're on my calendar, it's a lot more likely.
For sure.
I have the dates in front of me. What were the
Here you
dates?
go.
April 22nd, July 22nd, and October 28th.
Yeah.
So I guess because I think you will need some time to prepare. And it sounds like depending on that first one, we may also have to move the time back a little bit if we want certain people to attend.
Or we could start with high school. I mean, so, I'm just gonna need, and I'll probably use, at least initially, curriculum committee as a feedback mechanism, and then, our individuals can talk, kind of exactly what we're wanting out of this. I think I have a decent idea, but, it'll be fairly new for staff in that element, but, one of the things I think is important for me in our discussions within, my evaluations, I do think getting some of the principles in front of you guys to see it at that boots level, some of that data that's being analyzed and, things that are being done in the buildings. I think that's the important piece of this, that I want you to be able to see that you probably don't see. And so that's the goal. So gonna need some time for KP to work with our principal teams, and figure out which buildings, in that element to do this. At the elementary level, especially the middle school is pretty, easy, and then high school is obviously 3 of them to be able to do, but, there may be a point where we just want to focus more on our at-risk kids in TC High, or, so I'll be gathering feedback, but that's kind of an initial framework I'm working off of.
So just for timing, maybe we say that April 22nd is the first one, which will give us time to plan this whole process out. And you can bring back a kind of proposal how you see it working to curriculum in February to get that. And then we can hash out any details. And then in February meeting, if we want to have a further discussion, then we can always move any dates we need to again at that point.
And are you all thinking this would just be focused on academic achievement at multiple sessions?
I mean, that's the feedback I had.
Multiple sessions? Okay.
Yeah, but in kind of focusing in elementary, middle school, and high school level.
So at separate meetings, I see. Okay.
At least that's the feedback I had gotten from
Okay.
the board when we discussed it as a thought.
I think academic achievement is a high priority. I didn't think of the sessions as
I didn't either.
being limited to that, though.
I just don't know time-wise, like, it depends how much time you want to dedicate towards it. It can be, again, the board study session, I always want to make sure that this is your, we'll, as a staff, we'll prepare what the board wants. I think, my initial interpretation was we wanted an academic focus to these, but it wouldn't bar. But again, it's just, I think one of the things you always want to do is make sure you have enough time and, to dedicate that towards it. I kind of felt like, after you get 3 hours in, kind of gets, mind-boggling a little bit. So I think that we've tried to say this is what the focus would be. But again, give me feedback at any point you want something different as a group, and we can discuss that.
My feedback is a little later in the day is preferable because I work till 5.
I know.
So, and I don't get paid if I.
Why don't we at least move the meetings until 5 o'clock? Because I know that there's also some conflicts on the other side. But the way this meeting will be structured is it's not a formal board meeting. There's going to be a different structure to it. So it's okay if you're a little late as well. But if we move it to 5, I think that will give everyone the opportunity to get here without going too late as well. So if we can make that change maybe to start with and just put them on
Do we
5
see it a
o'clock.
couple hours? Is that kind of the mind thought for you guys, like maybe like a 5 to 7?
Yeah, I think 2 to, I mean, as you said, when you get past 3, it's not as functional, but.
Okay. We'll shoot for that 2-hour period of design, and it'll go where it goes. So.
Yep, and we can come back with designs afterwards, so we can move that to 5 o'clock on those 3 dates, but we can again come back in February, and if we want to discuss.
We need a motion to approve this.
We need a motion to approve the whole, all the calendars
Right.
as amended, because we did just amend
Okay.
it. So you can use the wording from the 10C2 on consent. If anyone wants to make a motion.
I'll go for it. So I move to approve the designation of day, time, and place to hold the 2024 board meetings as discussed or amended.
Yep, as amended. Perfect.
Second.
Second. All right, and Megan, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Raymond?
Yes.
Trustee Moonmore?
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger?
Yes.
Trustee Byrd?
Yes.
Trustee Newman-Vale?
Yes.
Trustee Pack?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Moving on to the next item, which is public comment number 2. Megan, do we have a second public comment?
We do not have any requests.
Okay. Then we will move on to the closed session portion of our agenda. Just so everyone knows, when we do go into closed session, we do leave the room, we come back. But that said, is any students, before we get to that agenda, we'll just take a brief recess and sign any student forms that need signed. Come up. You can grab any.
Just a second.
Board member.
What?
Any board member?
You can ask any board member. Just come up to anyone here, and we can sign them up here. So.
Board members are.
And stop here.
Yep. Anyone with their hands up.
Board members. starts here.
Sorry, board members only.
Trying.
There we go. Thanks for coming. Thanks, guys.
Not a board member.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
That's okay. That's
Anyone
okay.
else?
You gotta explain it to your teacher, not me.
I was looking, Grand Valley. Very, very good.
All right, 4. There you go. Thanks for being here. All right. Mom has to help. Oh, okay. Aw. Oh, printed name? Oh, sorry. I screwed. Can I
Okay,
print
we're
my
off.
name here? Then you can swap it? Okay.
No,
Thank you.
we're not. I'm sorry, thank you. We're not.
There we go. How's that? Okay, yep. Could you feel their energy rising as we're getting closer to that time?
I'm trying.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the next item. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education meet in closed session under Sections 81B and 81H of the Open Meetings Act, PA 267 of 1976, to consider a student petition for reinstatement as requested by the parent of the student.
A second?
Okay. Megan, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Raymond?
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger?
Yes.
Trustee Bird?
Yes.
Trustee Moonmore?
Yes.
Trustee Newman-Vale?
Yes.
Trustee Pack?
All right, we motion carries. We are now in closed session. We'll return to this room, and the fee will return when we are back.
My name is Fred Cook, and I drive school bus.
My name is Leanne Murchie, and I'm a school bus driver for TCAPS. It's been a very wonderful experience.
When I first hired in, one of the previous bus drivers told me that this particular job, driving school bus, is the best job on earth. So I immediately took to it, and I have to agree that this is one of the best jobs that anyone can do.
What prompted me in the very beginning, I have a college degree, and she said, you're in the safest vehicle in the world on the road. So I thought, well, you know, I'm gonna try. Because I would be on the same time schedule as my own children. And when they were off, I was off. When holidays, I was there. So it was the best of both worlds. TCAPS offers jobs elsewhere within the system.
Between routes, I used to, for 12, 13 years, I did lunch duty over at East Middle School, and now I paint.
They're real good about finding people the hours that they need during the course of the day to make the job great. We have Mesa Insurance. The whole district has it. It's awesome. It's the best health insurance. We offer a 401k. There's a sign-on bonus. It's a win-win situation.
The most important thing, I think, coming to work at TCAPS is you understand that you are part of a team. It's a part of a collective. You know, it's not just bus drivers and then versus teachers. It's not that. We all are in this thing called education together.
If a person likes kids, generally likes kids, this is a perfect job.
So I'm talking to kids all day, and that experience is really heartwarming, and I continue to understand what it means to be a part of the community.
You are an educator. You have a chance to touch children's lives every day. And don't think that you don't. You are such an important part of the wheel of education.
So if there's no objection, we will return to open session. We are now in open session. Discussion, next discussion item, student reinstatement. Is there any discussion or motion?
I move that the Board of Education adopt the resolution for full reinstatement as recommended by the Reinstatement Committee to Traverse City Area Public Schools effective January 8th, 2024.
A second.
Okay. Any discussion?
No.
Megan, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Moonmore?
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger?
Yes.
Trustee Byrd?
Yes.
Trustee Newman Vale?
Yes.
Trustee Pack?
Yes.
Trustee Raymond?
Yes.
All right. Motion carries. Moving on to closing remarks. I am not going to have any closing remarks, but Dr. Van Wagner
Yeah,
does
just
have
to
one
let the
add.
board know in committee, so we did have a school bus accident with Dean Transportation with some of our special education students this evening. So probably the update I can give you at this point, that there was some injuries there. We do know that one student was transported. Don't really have an update, although I've heard minor, but that's through press release, or I'm sorry, media that's reported on it. We have made sure to talk to all families. All the students are on the bus. Parents were called. Most of them, parents were coming and got them at the site. There were a couple that still needed a ride, so the dean had another bus that came, picked those students up and took them. But we are working on making sure we have supports tomorrow for all those students. Continuing a press release, the ISD jointly with us put out earlier this evening, just after the board meeting started. So if any more details will come out, but it was a pretty bad bus, I can tell you, is totaled. With pictures, pretty worried about, the state of the driver, from the looks of those pictures. So we'll make sure our students are all supported. I'll talk with, we had students from both East and West Middle School that were on that bus. So we'll be making sure Tiffany's already reached out again to the parents tonight. We'll continue the principals' work tomorrow to make sure those supports are there.
Thank you.
Well wishes with everyone. So, the next board education meeting is Monday, February 12th at 6 p.m. in this room. Other than that, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I second it.
All right, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Meeting adjourned.
Go Blue.